just recorded a whole podcast episode that was fire. And I forgot to hit record. So none of it recorded. Oh my gosh, you should have seen my face too. And I realized I was like, oh shoot. So this one is going to be raw, real, and uncut. I am outside because it's a beautiful day and I don't want to be inside right now. I'm going to be recording a podcast episode in just a little bit today with a special guest who I'm really excited for. You guys are going to love that episode. But I was talking to Zach and he sent me a text. He's like, I felt like more power from you this morning. And I was like, what does that mean? Like good energy or like evil darkness power? Like, what do we got going on here? And he was like, no, definitely good. And I'll tell you what it is. So I've been on this mindset journey with money, and I've taken some big risks and I've scared the heck out of myself, and cannonballed. And it's just like, it's such a good timing for it too, because, you know, in the past when I've always been a hard worker, right? And an achiever and like go after it, right? But it was always for my own success, my glory, right? Like, look at me kind of thing. I never would have said that, right? But that's definitely how I felt inside. And I think that really came from, you know, two things, you know, growing up and being rewarded, and actually disciplined if I didn't, for good grades and doing well, right? And so this is something actually that Zach and I have talked about, because our kids, actually all three of our oldest kids at different times, they're in different grades obviously, have earned or been awarded student of the trimester, which is about character. And I'm so excited about that, because it's like, that is what I want to celebrate, you know, like how they carry themselves, right? But also Gabe was just earned high honor roll. And actually I wasn't there for that celebration because it was during one of my coaching calls, and so I just couldn't be there. But I just thought like, wow, that's really cool, you know. And so Zach's like, how are we going to celebrate all these kids? And I was like, you know, I definitely want to celebrate them. I just don't want it to be like, you performed well, so we're going to celebrate you. And that ties to your value and worth, right? And because that's what it became for me, was that the better I did, the more worthy I was, the more valuable I was, the more loved I was, right? But God has led me through this season of the wilderness where he broke me and shook me and, you know, remade me. And now, like, I'm in this place where I'm not for my glory. Like, I'm not on the throne. But God is calling me to play bigger in this season so that he can work through me in ways that I can't even imagine at this point. And I'm here for it, and I'm excited about it. And so anyways, it just, gosh, like I really wish you would have heard what I didn't record, because it was so good. Like, it really was. But you're going to get stuck with this one, and I hope you enjoy this and it challenges you too. And so I was just making it real also. And it's about, you know, 3 things I would do right now if I was struggling with something in my business. And, you know, one example I like to use a lot, because I think it's probably one of the biggest ones that people in the network marketing, direct selling industry faces, is the struggle to close sales. Now, to me, this has always been simple, because what I've learned and what I implement in what I teach is to ask great questions, to listen well, and then to make a strong recommendation based on what it is they don't want or what it is they do want, and how the thing that I am recommending to them is going to be the solution for that. And then gauge their readiness and their willingness to take action right now, and then a clear action step, like this is what we're going to do right now, right? And then I'm going to help you do that. And so to me, like that, I'm confident in that, and I do not struggle to close sales. But I know a lot of people do. And so the 3 things that I would do if I was struggling with, say, closing sales, is I would go find 3 books about how to close sales, how to be a great salesperson, how to, you know, sell like a boss. I don't know, right? Like, those are the things that I would do. I would read, I would learn, I would listen to podcasts, I would, you know, do everything I could to master that skill. The second thing I would do is I would put myself around people who are really good at what it is that I'm struggling with, and I would get super curious with them. I would ask lots of questions and I would learn as much as I possibly could. But the other thing that I would do is I would actually watch them. I would watch, if I could put myself as a fly on the wall, watch how they walk through the sales process. Watch how they walk into a room. How do they speak? How do they carry themselves, right? Like those things. And it's not that you're trying to be them, but it's more about embodying the confidence that goes along with it, right? And so that's the second thing that I would do is I would put myself around people who are who have done or are really good at what it is that I'm struggling with. And then the third thing is I would buy a course or I would hire a coach who has done what it is that I'm trying to get better at, but also who can help with mindset, because we can't outgrow or outact or outwork or out strategize our thinker, right? We can only grow as big as we can think and what we think is possible for us. And we have a lot of deeply rooted beliefs. And I had some great conversations with Gabe last night in the car. So it just so happened that, it was supposed to be me and him and Holly going to leader training at our church for our kids, for our church's version of VBS, which is amazing. It's called Spy Kids. They've been doing it for 25 years. They have like over 600 kids come now, and it's just really cool. I love their process of how they, how they have like middle schoolers become the helpers who are like cleaning, taking care of things, still having fun, helping the younger campers. And then the high schoolers actually are the leaders and who are, leading the kids. And of course, there are adults, obviously, who are like super in charge and running the show as well. But I love that enabling and empowering and teaching other people how to do that. Anyway, so then Holly came home and said, oh, I have to perform for band at the 8th grade graduation. It's at the high school. And I was like, okay, well, I'll drop you off, and then Gabe and I will go to this meeting, and then hopefully we'll be done in time to get back to pick you up, because we live like 25 to 30 minutes from like everything in all directions, really. Except for the school. The school's right here locally. But anyway, so on the way there, Gabe and I had a ton of time to talk one-on-one, which I have 5 kids, so I don't make enough time to talk one-on-one with my kids. It's one of those things that if you're not intentional about it, it's not going to happen, right? Like if you're not intentional to connect with your spouse, that's not going to happen either, right? And it's something that I do struggle with, so maybe I should go read some books on this. So if you recommend any parenting books about true, authentic connection with your kids, drop them in the review for me, or connect with me on Instagram, Chelsey_Noel, and I'd love to learn that. Anyway, right? Be a product of the things we're teaching and do the things that we're saying, right? Anyway, and so he and I were talking about, how he had made a high honor roll, also how his teacher has really, personalized things for him, because he's really, really good at math. He's really struggled in reading. And actually, my husband had an amazing insight on this the other day, honestly, because he was sharing his own struggle and vulnerability. He said, Gabe, because you're a logical, rational thinker, spelling is difficult for you because you want words to be spelled the way that they sound. But that doesn't work in English, because English is crazy and nothing is spelled the way that it sounds, right? We know this. And I was like, wow, that's like so super insightful. And I don't know. And so Gabe and I were talking about this, and we were talking about the education system. And I said, does school encourage you to think or to solve problems? And he was like, no, they tell us to listen, sit down, and do your work, right? Memorize. And Holly, she even shared something that, I don't even know if she realized like the insightfulness of what she was saying, but she's like, I feel like I cheated on a test recently, and I encouraged her that she didn't. But what she did was she actually hacked the test, because school is made for people who are really good at test taking, who are really good at memorizing, and who are really good at performing, right? Doing what they're told. And she said, yeah, right before the test, I created a pattern and I memorized it real quick. And as soon as I got my paper, I wrote down that pattern. And so then I was able to write down everything I had memorized because of that pattern. And I was like, well, you definitely weren't cheating. You just hacked the system, and I'm like, cheating would have been you looking at your paper, right, as you're writing your test. And so I said, hey, Gabe, I said, what if school was like more like you show up, with some peers, and your teacher was like, here's the problem we have. I want you guys as a class to figure out how we're going to solve this problem. And I said, and in doing this, not everyone's going to do the same thing, right? This is where people are going to get to lean into their giftings and their strengths. I said, someone like Emma, who's my third, she might be really great at marketing, right? Like going out and meeting people and like making those connections and bringing people to this event, And I said, Gabe, you're great with numbers. Say you have to feed, 5,000 people. Like, you're going to be able to calculate that out and be like, man, a meal costs this much. We have this many people. Like, this is how much that's going to cost. So now we need to go raise these funds. And then Emma, who's great at convincing people of things, can go out and raise those. Like, what if school looked like that instead, right? What if our education system looked like that? And so then that led to us talking about money and how I shared my goals with him, that my current goal is to, my big goal is to be a 7-figure earner, 6-figure giver. But in the shorter term, within the next year, my goal is to make $1 million. Okay. That's a big goal considering I haven't even made 100,000 at this point. Right. And so it was funny because Gabe was like, well, then why don't you aim for 100,000? And I said, well, because when you aim for 100,000, you're probably going to fall short of your goal. Right. But if I aim for $1 million and I fall short of my goal, well, that's still going to be a lot more than just 100,000, right? And so I was just walking through. I said, making $1 million is not about us having more things or nice things. Like, that's not the kind of stuff that motivates us. And there's nothing wrong with those things, right? Like, for us, it's about being able to give more, but it's also about that time, freedom, and flexibility. Like, what if, because right now my older kids get irritated because my bowl man here, who's making a huge mess with his ice cream, we have fun every day, don't we, Bo? We go do things, we go out to eat, we go shopping, go hiking. We do lots of fun things, and then the kids come home and they're like, oh, man, you guys moved on us again. And it's like, well, man, you're in school. Bo's not in school yet, right? And I was like, but what if we created this life where, I made an amount of money that we weren't tied to our house, first of all, or a location. What if we could hire a private tutor to come in and educate them in the way that I think is better in becoming thinkers and problem solvers, right? And, what if every day could be something where we go out and serve together, or we go out and help people together and adventure together, and like is totally like blowing the lid off of the box of society's norms of go to school or get good grades, go to school, get a good job, marry well, buy a house. Like, I don't know if that's the right order, and then retire someday, right? On less that wasn't even enough when you were working, right? So like, no, like I don't want that. Like, and it's just, and again, it's not about the money. Like, money is just an amplifier, right? If we're generous with a little, we're going to be generous with a lot, right? If we're stingy with little, we're going to be stingy with a lot. And so anyway, so we just had this amazing conversation. At the end of this, he was like, Mom, he's like, go make $1 million. Like, cheering me on. He's like, go, Mom, go, and it was so cool. And he was even like, he's like, I think I want to go back to homeschooling. And I'm like, ooh, I don't really want to do, like, I do, but I don't, right? Like, I don't want to be the one teaching them, but we're either homeschool or right? Like, there are other options, but you get what I'm saying. And I was like, well, maybe we're meant to create a new education system or something, right? That actually educates on the things that we need to understand, like tax law and code of how do we be rewarded as entrepreneurs by the tax laws so that we don't have to give as much to stingy Uncle Sam, right? So that we can do more with that money. Like, how about educating us on, like, how do you build a business, how to scale a business, how to leverage your energy and your time and your resources, and like how to think for yourself and to problem solve. And, like, what would an education system like that look like, right? And like we're thinking big over here, and that's some big energy. We got some big energy pants on. And my husband felt it, and I'm feeling it too. And it's more confident in who I am and my voice. And it's so interesting because I think one thing, and I talked about this actually in another reel and in stories today. And it's just this idea that we're taught in the industry, like, don't be controversial, right? Because that's immediately going to alienate 50% of your audience. But why are we so scarce on our customers that we're willing to silence our beliefs just to work with people that we don't align with in the first place? And why would they want to work with us if they don't align with us, right? Because when I actually look at people who are super successful, like ridiculously successful, not in just world standards of success, but like having your cake and eating it too, right? Like not successful at the expense of XYZ, but actually successful all around holistically. Like they are controversial, right? And they're doing their thing. And it's not controversial for being this just for the sake of being controversial, but why are we toning ourselves down when our beliefs drive us at the end of the day? So I challenge you that, if you're struggling in a certain area, get super clear with yourself, look in the mirror and ask yourself, what do I need to learn? What do I need to unlearn? What do I need, or who do I need to be around? And what action do I need to implement in order to grow in this area and create the results? And specifically, and most importantly, how do I need to grow my thinker in this situation? Hope you guys enjoyed this. Take care.